but call me back. I'm about to do bonding, and the people miss you. Happy birthday. I love you. And for 39, you look incredible. Happy birthday, Tori Cole. Okay, let's get this going. Okay. Welcome to What's Left of the Bonding Podcast. I'm what's left of your host, Mr. Troy Bond, Dr. Miss Jackson, if you nasty. Today, we are going to be going over some questions. I was going to do a whole podcast talking about Iran, and it's not happy. It's not funny right now. I'm still really kind of processing it, and I'm sore. I'm sore of every single day this year waking up, every single day for the last 2 years, waking up to some catastrophic shit at the whims of a senile old rapist with herpes, convicted of 34 felonies, and he somehow just gets to call the shots. And where he loves to tout the fact that we have killed the most evil man on the face of the planet, as if the most evil man on the face of the planet didn't just say that sentence out loud. So, what are my thoughts about the war in Iran? I'm anti-war all over the place, all across the board. I am anti-American lives being sent over there. Boots on the ground are not American lives. American lives are. I think they shouldn't. Every member of Congress who is going to vote to go ahead with this war should be forced to enlist somebody that they love, one of their loved ones. That was the big controversy in the early 2000s with Afghanistan and Iraq, because everybody was like, well, George Bush, send your fucking kids over there. And he's like, no, goddammit, I'm going to have one of them be the weak link on the Today Show. Now watch this drive. It's just an unnecessary loss of life. We need to do something about liberating the people of Iran, but that we does not have to be the United States, because when have we ever, somebody can prove me wrong in the comments, but when have we ever done regime change and it worked out? Yeah, we killed the Ayatollah. Great, fantastic, cool, beautiful. What system of governance are you going to put in place of that? Did we not learn anything from Afghanistan? What happened when we went into Afghanistan? We toppled the government. We were in there for 20 years, and then when we left, the Taliban ended up taking over to begin with. Just because you cut the head of the snake off doesn't mean that there's not going to be a new snake that's there to lead. And every time we do shit like this, it just creates more terrorists. And that there's sleeper cells in the United States from Iran just waiting to attack, because we love swinging our big dicks around. And I've grown up with U.S. imperialism my entire life, and U.S. capitalism, as I drop my iPhone on the floor. So if that doesn't show you I'm a hypocrite, then what does? But no war with Iran, and it looks like we're going forward with it, because whatever's in those Epstein files, he does not want to get out. And anyone that supports him at this point is a pedophile sympathizer, okay? And don't hit me with he was never on the island. Well, he flew on his plane from 93 to 97. Epstein bought the island in 98. So where was he flying with him to from 93 to 97? Were they going to Woodstock? Were they going to see Nirvana? I don't know. Maybe they went and caught a Sting concert. Who knows? You know what happened? He flew to his New Mexico property. He flew to his Palm Beach party. And he more than likely tortured, assaulted Lake Michigan. Look that up. I don't even think I can talk about that on this show without it getting demonetized. But we're run by an elitist cabal of pedophiles, some of whom you voted for and still stand by and support. Not the ones watching this show, I imagine, but if you are. And Trump supporters are welcome at my shows. Everyone is welcome at my show. Diversity is diversity in both ethnicity and thought. One have to do with the other. So I would never, unlike the people who tried to cancel me after I killed Charlie Kirk, I would never. You know what they did to me? They called the clubs I was performing at. That's why I went kind of MIA for a while. That's why Tori doesn't do bonding anymore, because the death threats that they were sending her made her so afraid that she didn't want to be around that toxicity anymore. And shame on you free speech, not understanding, incomprehensive cousin fucking Charlie Kirk dick riders who did that. And while on the subject, I do want to say, when I said what I said about Charlie Kirk, and I don't specifically remember what I said, I don't feel bad for it, but I'm beginning to feel bad for Charlie, because the evidence, and I don't like Candace Owens by a long shot. Like, if you support Candace Owens, we might not be on the same team. But even a broken clock is right twice a day. Candace Owens is a closeted lesbian and loves to talk about how the Democratic Party uses black people as tokens, as if she's not being used for that exact same reason in the Republican Party. But what differs Candace from the rest is there's that guy, Brylan Hollyhand or something, that said he was going to be the new Charlie Kirk when Charlie died. And then that lasted for about 2 minutes because there won't be a new Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk's whole thing was establishing family values and this old school Rush Limbaugh doctrine of conservatism to the youth. And that may have worked in 2015 to 2022. But you're going to be unable to indoctrinate Gen Z with those beliefs because Gen Z are a generation of empaths, of researchers, of understanders. You'll be able to get the millennials because millennials do know how to embrace the collective more than Gen Z does, and they've lived through all kinds of different political discourse, and millennials are a little bit closer to being older. That's like what happens with every celebrity in Hollywood. Like, they get famous, and then they get super Republican because they don't want to share their money with anyone else. Gen Z is a generation of leftists, not liberals, leftists. I vote Democrat every 4 years, and you think I want to? No, I'm voting for the lesser of two evils, and I, like a lot of other people my age, are waking up to the fact that voting for the lesser of two evils has gotten us nowhere. If you're like me, in 2016, I voted for Hillary Clinton. I was a staunch Bernie Sanders supporter. I didn't want to vote for Hillary. Then around the time the debates came, it was increasingly evident that you don't want anyone like the guy who's in the White House now to be president, because I saw the writing on the walls of what people forget that, like, he was anti-Jewish. He reposted some New York Times or some tabloid thing with Hillary Clinton and had the Star of David on it. There's which brings me to another point, and I'll get back to that in a second, but like, there's this conflation between anti-Semitism and Zionism that just blows my mind. I watched Anna Kasparian say she didn't believe Tucker Carlson was an anti-Semite just because he was a Zionist. Some of the biggest Zionists are anti-Semites. Do you know what the whole point the Christian right wants is they want to have it so when the rapture happens, the good Christians all get sent up to heaven, the Jews go to hell, and maybe a third of them get to ascend with the chosen. So you tell me if they're protecting Israel for the right to defend itself, and maybe it's not some ethnic cleansing that is disguised itself as personal sovereignty and security, because and you have to wonder, who are the people that are aligning with these people? You want to ask the question, is it okay to be gay in Palestine? It's okay to be gay in Israel. It's been almost 4 years now. And it doesn't seem like anything is ever going to change. Right now, it seems like the bad people are in power and they're winning. They're about to control all the media. And they'll say, oh, the liberals will be controlling media for the longest time. Yeah, because liberals know what the fuck people want to see. And if you don't want to see what the fuck liberals are making, then turn on Mr. Burcham or Adam Carolla or some fruit that's so low-hanging a muskrat would be able to reach it from its tippy toes. There's a clear divide in this country between left and right when it's really about rich and poor, the elites and the people who have to work 60 hours a week just to be poor. And the evil that's pervasive and that's governing it is just so naked now that it feels like a lot of people have just given up or don't see a solution out. The solution out is guillotine. We need a Nuremberg trial for every single ICE agent. Trump's got to go. It's not going to happen. He's going to get his ass kicked in the midterms. But there's not too much to be optimistic about in the field of politics right now. And I don't think a lot of people are okay with the message of just get out and vote, because the sad truth is that we have been doing that and nothing's changed. Even when we vote for the right people, the Democrats were in power for 4 years and we got nothing done. I blame a lot of that on Joe Biden. Although I flourished under Biden, he could have codified Roe. And I have these same criticisms against Obama, but their incompetency and complacency in wishing for the best and reaching across the aisle has led us to where we are now. And I'm worried that where we are right now is going to become the new norm, and we're not going to have He's going to nationalize the midterm elections. We're going to find a way to get him there for a third term, unless he gets popped, and then we get President J.D. Vance for like 3 days because he has no swagger, and then Gavin Newsom becomes president, and then we're all extremely fucked. So those are my thoughts to start the week off with. Nothing too happy. Why don't we get into some questions? Because as you know, we do 2 episodes a week. On Mondays, we have the questions episode, and on Thursdays, we have the Michael and Me segment with me and Jared Waters. So let's go into some of the questions that you asked on Instagram. If you want to shoot a question out to the show, you can do so at BondingPod on Instagram, and whatever you ask, I try to answer. Okay. This one comes in from Dietrich Titus. How do you go on tour? That's a great question, Dietrich. There's a few different ways that I don't know if you're asking like the actual act of traveling or how it starts, but I could break sort of both down for you. So I have an agent. I have an agency. I'm with CAA, Creative Artists Agency, best on the planet. Shout out to Yael Woolman at R11 and my manager Logan Potter and a myriad of other people who get to make those things happen. And what they do is they shop me around to a bunch of different markets. They send them an offer. I get the offer back. I always say yes because I love to work. I love to tour. And if I'm lucky, I can do that for the rest of my life. I guess a part of me is a tiny burnt out. Don't get me wrong. After not working for 6 months, I'm so happy to be back to it, being on the road. And I did stand up at Broadway for 6, 7 months. Thank you to Rich Brooks for allowing me to still be able to perform, because my life is just moments of distractions in between getting to go on stage. And that's where I feel like I'm actually doing something good for the people. My life's mission statement is leaving the world a little bit better than how it was when I woke up that morning. And when you do stand-up comedy and you make people laugh and you make them have a good time, you can actually do that. The process of being on tour for me is I've made some mistakes in the past. My first year of touring, it all came at me so fast. Like I went from a guy who some people knew on TikTok to that guy from TikTok to the modern Seinfelds to the Kamala Harris video. People would see me on the street and recognize me. And that ego sort of gets to you a little bit. You're like, I'm infallible. Nothing bad is going to ever happen to me ever. And then you start to realize that you feel that way because comedians have this thing where if they're good at their job, they're the only person who has ever said that thing. You know what I mean? Like music is the same, but like it's a collective of ideas, and you have instruments and you have a band and you have all these. But comedy is so great because if it's a good joke, you're like, I'm the only one who ever said that, and that's something I can take a lot of pride in. And so my process of being on tour is I try to live as presently as I can. I think I live by that Qui-Gon Jinn: your focus determines your reality. And when I first started touring, I had a bad problem with pills. I would have to take one to get up in the morning. I'd have to take an Adderall, 30 milligrams Adderall, sometimes 60 milligrams of Adderall, just to get through and get used to being in different time zones, because you don't really get to sleep that much, and you have to be funny. It's not like I can hide behind a guitar. I have to like use my words, and if I'm not there, the audience is going to be able to tell. One time in St. Petersburg, I was so jet lagged. I was exhausted from all year touring in 2023, and I had probably one of the worst shows of my entire career. And I don't know if I've ever talked about this publicly, but I was on a downer. I was probably on 2 or 3 downers because I thought I could handle it. And I go on stage for an hour, and I mean, just gibberish. You could not understand a single word I was saying. My manager was trying to get me off stage. I was fighting her on it. I did the full hour, but I held my head in shame that entire weekend. A month later, I go to rehab. Left rehab after 2 days. And I'm at the age now where you can have, I'm very specific about what I can have, what I can drink. I like wine, red or white. I try to stay away from White Claw because if I pop one of those, I'll have about 50. But I like to keep my green room filled with fruits and vegetables because you eat so much bad food when you're on the road. I've recently switched to a vegetarian diet because I noticed myself getting a little bit of a gut. So I like to have fruits and vegetables in the room, maybe some crackers, because it keeps the electrolytes up. It keeps you are the car, and what you put into it is the gas. So like if I don't put the right gas in the car, it's not going to be able to drive the distance I needed to go. And as far as preparation goes, I have about 3 hours I can do on the road, realistically. And if this is boring, hearing me talk about comedy, I swear we'll move on to the next question very soon. But I have about 3 hours, and I don't do a lot of writing before I go on stage because I like to do my writing on stage. I like to bring ideas on stage with me because when you write jokes alone in my studio like I am right now, it might look really good there, but it's intended for a live studio audience. Does that make sense? As opposed to writing a script where you can be in total isolation and write a script for hours and have 22, 30 pages and then bring it to somebody to look over. I can collaborate with a lot of different people on stand-up stuff, but truly, I've been doing this for 13 years. Okay, I'm 30. I started when I was 17, and I was performing in high school before then. My stage presence has never been something I've been insecure about. In fact, it's something I rely on when I'm working on new jokes. And you can get away with a joke that's not so good if you have great delivery and a great persona behind it. Judd Apatow said you don't have to be funny, you just have to be interesting. I slightly disagree. I think you do have to be funny, but in terms of getting people to listen to you, you absolutely must be interesting. Even if the joke isn't funny, if the premise is interesting, they'll ride along with you on that. And then my wind down process for coming home from tour is what I like to do is I come home, roll a nice long Jazz Cabbage cigarette. Okay, I just want to make sure I'm still recording. I order Chinese food, sauteed broccoli with brown sauce and white rice with 3 spring rolls and cheese wontons, and get a little bit baked, watch a few movies, go to sleep. On a good weekend, you work Thursday through Saturday, fly back Sunday, you're home Monday, Tuesday. Wednesday, you pack, Thursday, you're back out. And since the Kirk stuff had happened, I'm looked at as kind of a liability, and some of my old drinking problems that I've since worked on and healed and become a. There's something else that happened too that maybe one day I'll talk about on the podcast, but it involves someone else, and I would never want her to get in any trouble either. But how do I go on tour? I make myself as accountable as possible, if that makes any sense. Do you believe in God? I do not believe in God. And I don't. How do I word this? Because I want to say I don't judge people who do. I guess I judge the bad people who do because they're hypocrites. I went to Catholic school when I was a kid because my parents moved us into a kind of a rough neighborhood, and they didn't want us to go to the public schools in Waterbury, Connecticut, so they paid an arm and a leg. Let's be honest, they probably never paid them. But they sent us to a private school in 2nd grade, and my father wasn't religious. In fact, he was a Buddhist. And when he gave up drinking, he instilled Buddhism on all of us, meaning we had to go to meditation class every Saturday. And that's why I still meditate to this day and try to practice Buddhism as close as I can, because Buddhism teaches you how to be present. And as someone with anxiety who always has a lot of stuff to do, it's so crucial to remind yourself that the most important thing you're doing in your life is happening right now. Whatever you're doing right now, you're watching this podcast, this is the most important thing you could be doing right now. And so I went to Catholic school. It sucks. Going to Catholic school 2nd grade sucks. It is not a fiesta. I have never said that word. I don't know why I just said it now. But my 2nd grade teacher, shout out Mrs. Greco, and hated it. One year on Halloween, they let us wear costumes to school, and my brother was dressed up as Batman, and he had a bladder problem. He used to piss himself a lot. I'm sorry, Logan. I hope you forgive me for telling this story. And he held his pee in all day, and then when they were dismissing everybody for recess, he pulled his pants down, peed all over the church, and I swear that's why we have the bad luck that we do today. I think religion does a lot of good for this world. I see religions helping communities, and I also see them being hypocrites. Do I think people like Joel Osteen and megachurches are good ideas? Absolutely not, especially that hurricane happened a few years ago, and he wouldn't let anyone in his dome to seek refuge. That's not very Christian of you, Joel. I also think that the upside to religion is it's an opiate to people who want to be able to see the people that they lost once again, and I totally understand that. I just have not seen evidence to make me believe that there is a God. I'm a bit cynical. He's either all powerful or all loving. Not to quote Batman vs. Superman, because that line is cringy as fuck. But if there was a God, I wouldn't want to live in his heaven, because I don't want to live with somebody who can give kids cancer, who can blow off the arms of innocent children in Palestine and Iran and let children go hungry in my country. I don't know if that's a guy I want to worship, but I do think that humanity, left to its own devices, is evil. And while I don't think that you need religion to be a good person, some people do need it to be their moral code. And for that, I'm grateful. A few months ago, when they said, remember, like back in Thanksgiving, they said they were going to get rid of SNAP benefits. So there's this woman that went online and she was calling different churches saying, could she get formula for her baby? She didn't really have a baby. She was just doing a social experiment. And like 9 out of 10 churches said they can't help her because she's not a member. Now, I'm pretty sure it's not what Christ meant by saying take the other cheek or turn the other cheek. I've just seen too many people die at the hands of religion. I've seen a lot of lives saved at the hands of religion, but to me, it's a mind control rooted in misogyny to live in fear of a judgmental God who created you in his own image. So if you're gay, he's going to burn you in hell because he made a mistake. I'm not saying anything new here, and I also am not offending anyone who's religious because I've prayed with many different religious groups. I respect it. I think it's very loving and welcoming when you ask me to be a part of your faith. I recognize and understand, and the beauty of that is not lost on me. And I have faith in what? I don't know. I think you need to have some kind of faith in this life. Faith gets you out of bed in the morning. Faith tells you that that you can help the starfish that's beached on the beach. I just have been hurt and have seen people be hurt and don't think religion. I don't think I need religion to be a good person. I'm a Jedi, like my father before me. Would you like to be married and a father? Wow, that's a good question. It's something you think about, right? For a while, I didn't. I didn't want to be married because I didn't want to pass on what was wrong with me to my kids, right? And I remember saying that to my father once. My father said, I had the same worry about you. And look at you now. And I'm like, yeah, fucking depressed. But I get what he meant. He thought he was going to see the worst parts of him in me. And maybe some of those traits passed over. But I often worried that I was going to continue the cycle of parenting that I got when I was a kid. And I never would want my children to fear me the way I feared my father. But as I get older, I think, you know what? I wouldn't have allowed that to happen. I would be a pretty good dad, especially if I had a good baby mama, who would obviously be my wife. So it's in the cards. But I don't think I can do it until I've accomplished a good chunk of my goals I want to do in my 30s. Because I did everything I wanted to in my 20s. But now I want to do what I want in my 30s, get married in my 40s. And I don't want to be building two things at once because you have to be married to both your career and your partner. And if you want to bring kids into this, that's a whole other commitment that I better be paid enough to hire a nanny for. What New Year's resolution you would like to achieve this year? Get money, get paid, dog. Where do you see yourself living/doing in 5 years? The same thing I do every night, Pinky. Try and take over the world. Could you imagine yourself being a homestead fella, like Owen and Lars Baru on the homestead? I can see that for myself. I love living in the city because everything's just always right there. And a few years ago, I was driving from I was driving from Boise, Idaho to Salt Lake City, where I got to see the real America. Tori and I were driving. And I used to not believe in guns until I was driving through there because I was like, there's like one house and then like 50 miles of corn and then another house. And my thinking is, if I'm home in the middle of the night and somebody knocks on my door, I'm going to want a motherfucking heater on me to figure out why the fuck you're knocking on my door so early. But I love the city life too much. To be honest with you, New York is my home. I don't know where I would live without it, but sometimes I've had kind of enough. Okay. How do you feel about Michael's marriage with Lisa Marie Presley? People say she looked so happy. Well, it's interesting because, they met in the 70s when the Jacksons were doing a family act on the Sunset Strip, and he was about 10 years older than her, and he kept trying to get her number, and then eventually, I guess, one day he did, and then they get married like 20 years after she got divorced, and this was right after the allegation, so a lot of people thought that it was a cover-up. I do believe that they loved each other. I also think that Michael was going through a huge transitionary point in his life then because They accuse him of being the worst they could possibly accuse him of, and he's trying to rebuild his image back, trying not to be as overtly angry as he sounded, while also at the same time maintain a marriage with Lisa. I mean, there was one point where he just left her for 6 straight weeks and then came back, and then they saw him at the MTV Awards, and she said some very nice things about him in his book, and apparently he did love her. If she asked him in 2005, do you still love me? And he said yes. And I think she said the same thing too. So like, but the thing is Michael was never going to settle down and get married ever. He didn't trust enough people. He saw his brothers go through what they do in their marriages. And he was like, yeah, women are snakes and I don't want to be caught up in them. And looking at how his life played out, can you say he was wrong? How do I make my Mexican, Republican, Catholic, Trump-loving dad less brainwashed? You're not going to. I'm sorry. You got to just rip that Band-Aid off right now. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. If he already doesn't see the irony of it, then as they say, as as the Mexicans say, forget it. You don't see the irony in it? Forget it. Chances are, I see two things happening. One, he holds these beliefs because he's a bit of a contrarian. And two, these supporters have stood by him and dedicated and sacrificed so much for this man that I give a lot of credit for those that do the 180 and say I got it wrong, but I just don't see it happening with your case. If you have tried to appeal to his empathy from daughter to father and explain to him why his support alienates you and makes you look at him as less of a man that would support a man who sexually assaults women and children, you got to frame it to him in that way. That's your guy. That's your dude. What if one of his friends did that to me? Would you still support him? You really got to crack him. You have to get to a point where you make him admit that he would support Ginger Snap despite all of the heinous things that he's done. Because a lot of people, when the pussy tape came out in the 2016 election, there were so many people that came out and said, I have a wife, I have a daughter, I just can't stand by something like this. Oh, cool. So you don't have any black, Mexican, Haitian friends who is through their empathy, but increasingly that empathy erodes. And when empathy erodes, logic does not prevail. You just have to let people stew in their isolation because that's what's going to end up happening to them when everyone around them leaves because the ideals that they hold are so absolutely abhorrent. Not to preach, but I hope some of that made sense. Will there be any more screenplay readings? Yes. Oh, I want to plug this. We're starting up Certain Point of View again this week. I'm going to be reading The Empire Strikes Back. I'm starting a Patreon as well, where if you sign up, it's going to be a Troy Bond General Patreon. You're going to get exclusive stand-up clips. You're going to get bonus episodes of Bonding. You're going to get me doing director's commentary on movies I love. You are absolutely going to love it. Please, 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 when the Patreon drops, probably about 2 weeks from now, you're going to want to check it out, and you're going to hear some of those recordings in there. So don't forget to check out the Patreon when it's coming. What you be doing on Sundays at 2:47 p.m.? Well, Sundays are my chill day. I work, when I'm in the city, I work Thursday, Friday, Saturdays, about 5 spots a night. So that's 15 spots, 20 minutes each. Do with that what you will, math-wise. Sunday, I like to. Yesterday, I sat in bed with my girl and we watched a lot of TV and ate a lot of food. And we made eggplant and sauce, some Sunday dinner. Sundays, I like to watch the movies. Yesterday, I went to go see Nirvana, the band, the movie. Phenomenal movie. You have to go see it. It's so fucking funny. It is. I saw Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die. That is my second favorite movie I've seen this year. And Wuthering Heights. Wuthering Heights was phenomenal. I went to see it with the girls, okay? And the girls had me crying. And I was crying I was wallowing at the end of Wuthering Heights. It was so good. It was such a well-done movie. But Sundays, I like to chill. I read comic books. I try to get ahead of what I got to do for work for the week. But I like to spend time with my girl first and foremost, because she's like the batteries that go into my back that fuel me and give me the confidence and let me know. Because she knows everything about me. And I'm a bad person, so she's able to still love me after all that. You best believe I want every second with her, which is very easy if you had a girl like mine. Worst expensive meal experience. Okay, so when I went to London in 2024, shout out my manager, Logan Potter, who found this 10-course Batman Michelin star dining experience. And the way it worked is, and it's shut down, by the way, so I feel okay talking about this. The way it worked is they brought you into this restaurant, they seat you in this banquet hall room, and a escape room-esque vibe starts to ensue. There's this host that comes out and tells you what you're eating, what you're about to eat, but it's all Batman themed. So like the first one was like Catwoman, and like he would tell a whole story about Catwoman, and the walls were like LED, so like they had like shit on every corner of the wall. And I forgot how texture-based American food taste buds are and how unused to eating food in other countries I was. And the first meal they brought out was ox tongue, and this was a $500 meal. And I looked at my manager, Logan, and I said, I know you're not dead ass right now. I maybe ate 3 out of the 10 courses and then went to London McDonald's right after that. So, like, worst meal experience? Probably. But that's because I'm a picky American eater, and I know that about myself. My best meal experience? That's a hard one. Because I live in the city with the best food on the planet. You know what? I'm a sucker for Mexican restaurants. I don't care where they are. When I was, for like 10 years, there was this incredible chain in the city called Blockheads, where it was Mexican food and really cheap drinks. You can get fucking sauced in like an hour there. I loved it. I used to go there so much, I would leave my ID at the place because I knew I'd be back eventually. There's just something to me about being able to throw back several cocktails, several quesadillas, chips and salsa, and then leave like you just ate a 10-course meal. Like, just Mexican food is right up there. I want my last meal to be baked ziti, but I would really love a quesadilla next to it too. I don't know who's in charge of that. Probably my captors. So hopefully they're watching and taking note. What else I got? What level was I in Battlefront 2015? I was a level 92, I believe. I believe I maxed out. I've been playing Battlefront 2, but I really want to play Battlefront 2015, man, because that was the shit. I really miss it. I really miss the Death Star trench run. There's so many great. The Scarif map was amazing. I loved how Heroes versus Villains did. Hero Hunt, that was really good. There were so many great parts of that game. I really wish we could get like either an offline version of the online maps or like some kind of revitalization. If anyone listening to this wants to ever play Battlefront with me on PlayStation, my username is Obi Bond. I accept everyone. Maybe one day let's get a party going. Hi, Troy. I know you love Michael Jackson, but is there a Michael Jackson song that is your least favorite? Okay. It's called Little Susie. I think it's about John Benet Ramsey. And it's just sad to me. It's about a girl who was assaulted and then nobody came to help her. I know the lyrics to every Michael song. I don't know all the lyrics to that one, and I should, but it's a hard watch. Are you going to be coming to the UK soon? Brother, call your local UK venues, tell them send Troy Bond over there and I'll be there in a heartbeat. I am dying to come back to the UK. Are you a fan of The Crow? Check out my Secret Identity episode about The Crow, and thank you for saying I look like Brandon Lee. You coming to London anytime soon? Same answer, man. Hit up your local comedy club, your coffee shop. Last time I went there, I had a blast. Get me back out there. I loved it out there. Are you? I have not watched Heated Rivalry. It's just not for me. I've heard it's great. I don't like hockey. I don't like Dick. I think that counts me out. What are your thoughts about the latest trailer on The Mandalorian and Grogu? I've got a few thoughts because I thought the last season of Mandalorian was dog shit. Not dog shit, but like unnecessary. I thought Grogu should have stayed with Luke. I thought that the mythosaur from the first episode, who we haven't seen in Star Wars lore ever, it was believed to be extinct until it came out of the water in that episode. I think the Christopher Lloyd Webber episode was in that one where he was a separatist as a pejorative term. They did Bo-Katan's character dirty. I'm sorry. Bo-Katan was like kind of important in Clone Wars, but she was kind of dumb because like she joined the Death Clan and the Death Clan killed her sister. Like, what the fuck did you think was going to happen? I liked the ending. The ending was cool with the old school like Japanese movie where it's circle, the circle fade out with that's all folks with Grogu and him fishing. I thought that was really cool. And every trailer up until the one that came out maybe a week ago looked like ass. And now I'm in for it. Here's the thing you have to understand. Without Disney buying Star Wars, it would have faded into expanded universe stuff. And don't tell me you would have preferred expanded universe, because that just tells me right there you don't know the expanded universe. There's some fucking horrible shit in there. And are they borrowing EU ideas for the new Star Wars stuff? Of course they are. But EU was a fucking disaster. There's some really great stuff in there, but there's a lot of also a dog a doo doo. What else we got here? Should I just end it all? Like, it's ending the same way anyway, right? What? Of course not. What? What do you mean? End it all today, not knowing what's ahead of you? Sure, we're going to die alone and people will forget us, and this whole galaxy will explode when the sun does. Does that make life any less worth living? Do you feel this way because you're not being fulfilled in some capacity? Do you feel like you're being overlooked? Do you feel like nobody even knows who you are? Because if that's the case, millions of other people feel that way too. And there's ways to handle it. You embrace the collective. It sounds like what you're feeling is extremely bleak, and it's very much, well, nothing really is it's not gonna make a difference. What if I do this or I do that? You're gonna fail. You're gonna be broken. You're gonna be crushed. Would you rather be focused on the bad that's going to happen, or manifest the good and make something out of your life? You think I ever thought I'd be a stand-up comic? I came very close to killing myself after all the Charlie Kirk stuff had happened. Very close. Would have been my fourth suicide attempt. Very, very, very close. I can't tell you why I didn't, but I felt just like you. I was like, my career's over. I've embarrassed everyone who works for me. I've embarrassed my family. The best way for me to rectify all this is to just end it so I don't cause any more strife for anyone else. And it's a very selfish way to look at things. Because if you're not going to love yourself, at least have respect for the people who love you. Because there are people out there who love you. And if you're saying there's not, you're not looking hard enough. Or maybe you're not looking at all, which is very scary to do anyway. But I guarantee you, no matter where you live, there's 10 other people who feel just like you do. And maybe if you talk to them about what you're feeling, you won't feel so alone, and neither will they. Then, when it comes time to die in your old age, you'll be surrounded by family and friends who went through it with you, and that made life worth living. Not to get all Mr. Rogersy on you, but, that's my 2 cents. Map out your perfect day. What does it look like? Who are you with? Well, okay, I'll be honest. The perfect day, getting up early in the morning, getting in a car, going to the airport because I'm about to perform that weekend. Hopefully I'm with somebody I love. Somebody like Tori or Slater or Brent or Alex Corge. I love flying. I love airports. I'm weird like that. I love all of it. I get to smoke a joint when we get off the plane because I'll roll one before I board. So I have one and just smoke right outside of the terminal. Get back to the hotel, kick off your shoes and relax your feet. You get to perform stand-up comedy, of course. Take pictures with people who came out to see the show. Get to talk to my mom. Make people laugh. The more I make people laugh, the more I can just sit here and entertain you while you're watching this on TV or listening into your car. That's all I want to do for the rest of my life. So a perfect day for me is sorry, I had a Sprite and it made me have 2 disgusting talk your way through burps. All right, let's see. Let's see how many other questions we have. Let's see. We got about, I think I can do about 5 more questions. What kinds of vegetarian dishes have you been eating since going off meat? Very good question. I cook for me, so I don't know how necessarily good it is for everyone else, but I can tell you a few very, very, very basic recipes. One of them I learned from a Jamaican woman when I first moved to the city. Shout out to Deanna Idlet. Chickpeas, curry powder, turmeric, onions, garlic, olive oil, salt, pepper, mixed in, put it in a pot, let it simmer for about 30 minutes, stir it up, and it's so healthy for you. It's so good for your immune system. There's a lot of protein in it, and rice too. You gotta have some jasmine rice in there. And that is a dish. It's very important to keep tasting it as you're eating it. It's like making pasta sauce, which pasta I've found to be a very good non-starchy build-up food. Like I get like the chickpea pasta. Last night I had spinach pappardelle, which was delicious. But I'm a pot maker, like I like a lot of beans, rice, and vegan chili in a pot, stirred up. Because then you can, maybe put in a little bit of taco. Maybe you have a pita. I'm eating vegetables like crazy. I stopped with junk food. My fridge is stocked with stir fry, mushrooms, broccoli, cauliflower. Yeah, like there's and I'm still bad. Like I ate McDonald's fries today, whatever. But like since I've cut out beef and chicken and pork, my stool has been significantly less bloody. All right, let's see. Three more, three more, three more, three more, three more. All right, here's a good last two. If you could be any animal, what would you be? Uh Gorilla. No doubt. They live very chill lives. And they're buff as fuck and they never lift any weights. And what was the second question? Favorite color? Red, baby. Can never go wrong with red. Okay. I hope that wasn't too boring. I told you we're trying to do 2 episodes a week. Thursday will be the thriller review of Michael and Me. Please be sure to follow along on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. If you want to submit a question, shoot it at Bonding Pod on Instagram. I'll be sure to see it there. Also, every Sunday, I post on the Bonding Pod, Ask Me a Question, and hopefully you can see it then. I'm going on the road this Friday and Saturday in Bragg, California. I have a date coming up in Naples, Florida, and many more. You can catch them in the link down below. Until next time, never trust a big button to smile. I love you, Troy Scouts.